Have you ever wondered why Japanese homes always exude such a sense of calm, cleanliness, and comfort? Even in small, narrow spaces, they manage to make every corner feel bright, tidy, and peaceful. What special secrets do they hold that we've never learned? I used to ask myself that until I turned 60 on a very special occasion. That day, I held a small, cozy birthday party with just a few close friends. Among them was a longtime friend from afar, Noriko, an 80-year-old Japanese woman living in the US. She was simple, calm, and brought a gift wrapped in a thin piece of fabric. As she handed it to me, she simply said, "These are the things that have stayed with me all my life." I slipped the gift into my bag, then continued chatting and sipping tea with everyone. It wasn't until the party ended and the house quieted down again that I sat down and opened it. Inside was a handwritten notebook, black ink on ivory paper. No hardcover, no author's name. But from the first lines, I realized this wasn't just a birthday present. It was a treasure of mindfulness, simplicity, and depth, containing 15 secrets to living and cleaning in a uniquely Japanese way. The Japanese don't view cleaning simply as removing dirt. They see it as a ritual, a journey to purify their living space and renew their mind. Noriko called it Usuji, a type of cleaning done with full presence in every movement. Before starting, she always opened the windows to welcome in fresh air and let old energy go. Then she would breathe deeply, gently place her hand on the broom as a greeting, and only then begin cleaning. No strong-smelling chemicals, just a few drops of mint or orange essential oil in water to create a gentle, pleasant space. She never rushed. Every movement was slow, careful, wiping each table leg, paying attention to forgotten corners. Once done, she brewed tea, sat down, and looked at the room as if contemplating her freshly renewed self. At first, I didn't think something as simple as cleaning could bring such relief. But when I truly followed Noriko's way, not rushing, not robotic, I began to feel peace spreading through every small corner. I slept better, felt less tense, and it was as if the house began to take care of me in return. Usuji doesn't ask for much. Just choose a room, open a window, breathe deeply, and clean as if caring for your own soul. Noriko taught me that not everything we own still serves our current life. Some things were once useful, once loved, but now lie still like shadows of the past. Danshari is the art of intentional letting go, not just discarding objects, but a spiritual act of freeing yourself from invisible attachments. Each year, Noriko would walk through her home and reflect on each item. She'd ask, "Does this still suit me today? If I lost it, would I miss it? If I saw it in a store now, would I buy it again?" If the answer was no, she'd thank the item for serving her and let it go with respect. I applied this to an old sweater of my late wife, something I had kept for years but never used. When I placed my hand on it and said goodbye, I didn't lose the memory, but I gained a breath of fresh air in my soul. Letting go isn't losing. It's choosing what truly belongs to who you are now. One small but powerful change in Japanese home organization is vertical storage, called to. Noriko said everything from clothes and documents to towels and kitchen tools should be arranged upright, not stacked horizontally. Why does it matter? Because when arranged vertically, you can see everything at a glance. No more digging around for lost items buried beneath layers. No more forgotten shirts hidden under piles. I opened an old drawer and was surprised to find 3 t-shirts I hadn't seen in 2 years. They'd been buried under folded stacks, as if they never existed. I took everything out, folded it vertically, and lined it side by side. Now, every time I open that drawer, it's clear, light, and easy. No more heaviness, only order and ease. Noriko once said, "Fold your clothes like you're wrapping a gift. Gently, carefully. And when placing them in the drawer, do it as if you're caring for yourself." To her, organizing wasn't a chore, it was a gesture of love. Tidy doesn't require perfection, just care. And each time you open a drawer, let it be a pleasant moment, not a battle. Noriko wrote that in Japanese culture, ma isn't emptiness. It's a pause, a quiet moment between what exists. In a living space, ma is the untouched white wall, the uncluttered table, the space between objects, and it all has meaning. The Japanese don't try to fill every gap. On the contrary, they leave space for light to enter, for the mind to rest. Noriko said whenever she organized her bookshelves, dining table, or windowsill, she always left at least a quarter of the space empty. No stacking, no crowding. What remains stands out more, becomes clearer, and more meaningful. I tried this, removing a few small items from my table and windowsill. The result was surprising. The room felt brighter, more open, even though I added nothing new. Simply by removing, the space came alive. Noriko compared Ma to silence in music. It's the pause that makes the melody. If everything is crowded, the mind becomes heavy. But when we preserve pauses, life becomes lighter and easier to breathe. Our living space mirrors our inner life. The more we honor open space, the more clearly we see what truly matters. On the very first page of the notebook, Noriko wrote in bold, Ichigo Ichie, a profound Japanese concept meaning one moment, once in a lifetime. Everything we do today, from wiping the table, folding towels, washing glasses, will never be repeated with the same feeling, light, or mood. So cherish each action, no matter how small. Noriko never wiped a table just because it was dirty. She did it as a way of giving thanks, for still being able to cook, for still having a place to sit and remember. She folded towels as if wrapping up a day, lived fully. Every motion was gentle, deliberate, not out of obligation, but gratitude. I used to think cleaning was just something to finish, but with the spirit of Ichigo Ichie, everything changed. I no longer wiped the table because it was dusty, but to say goodbye to a passing day. I no longer swept just for cleanliness, but to lighten my heart bit by bit. Tasks once mundane became sacred and full of emotion. Ichigo Ichie reminds us that life doesn't wait. Every moment is unique and won't return. So instead of rushing through tasks mindlessly, offer your full presence to each small act. When we live fully in each moment, that's when we are truly alive. Noriko never scolded me for being messy. Instead, she smiled and gently demonstrated, after taking off your clothes, fold them right away. If trash falls, pick it up. After cooking, clean the stove until it looks new. These actions were repeated every day, without complaint, without neglect. Gradually, I began to follow, not out of obligation, but because I discovered how pleasant it was when everything was in order. The Japanese call this spirit shitsuke, self-discipline forged from the smallest actions. It's not a rigid rule, but a delicate training that helps life become light and sustainable. Noriko believed, if you do small things well, you'll do everything well. Folding clothes wasn't just about neatness, but practicing attentiveness. Wiping the table wasn't just cleaning, but learning to love cleanliness and order. Each small action, if done mindfully and regularly, forms a routine, a beautiful habit that endures over time. I once thought I wasn't a tidy person, but Shitsuke changed that. I started with the smallest tasks, washing dishes right after eating, folding clothes after changing, making the bed each morning. It didn't require great effort, just consistency. After a few weeks, I no longer had to try to keep the house clean. It became instinct. Shitsuke teaches us that tidiness doesn't come from big efforts, but from nurturing small, consistent actions every day. And within those simple acts, we shape a beautiful, sustainable, and peaceful lifestyle. One of the things I admire most about Noriko is her thoughtfulness in every action. She never cleaned just for herself. Every task she did, mopping, arranging shoes, tidying a room, carried the thought, how will others feel when they enter this space? The Japanese call this omoyari, empathy, a subtle awareness rooted in always considering others before acting. Not showy, not loud, but expressed in every small detail. For example, she always placed slippers facing out so the next person could easily slip into them. She never cooked too much or too little rice because she didn't want the last person to eat leftovers, overs, or cold food. Even her folded handkerchief was tidy and clean, just in case someone sees it. I used to think cleaning was a personal chore. But Noriko made me understand, a clean, warm space is a silent gift to those we love. When I straighten blankets, it's not just for me, but for my companion to feel comfort when entering the room. When I clean the bathroom after use, it's my way of respecting the next person. Omoyari needs no words. It's love expressed through each action, washing a cup, sweeping the floor, or simply placing a chair back in place. And then I realized, when we live with empathy, we ourselves feel happier. The home becomes a place of connection, not just shelter. Noriko never let housework pile up for a big cleaning day. For her, keeping the home tidy didn't require big efforts, but a series of small, regular actions that happened as naturally as breathing. She taught me, after cooking, clean the stove. After changing clothes, fold them right away. If you see trash, bend down and pick it up. These seemingly simple acts, when maintained daily, created lasting tidiness in both the home and the mind. Living space, according to Noriko, is like a small garden. If we care a little each day, pulling weeds, watering, trimming, the garden remains fresh. But if we let it build up, we quickly feel overwhelmed and discouraged. She often said, "Do it while your hands are still warm, while your spirit is still fresh." I began to apply this. Instead of waiting until the weekend to clean, I wiped the table after every meal. I didn't let clothes pile up, I folded them each night. At first, it felt inconvenient, but after a few days, I felt lighter, no longer burdened every time I looked around the house. Most importantly, Noriko never saw keeping house as a duty. She saw it as a way of showing gratitude to life, to the room that shelters us, to the kitchen that nourishes us, to each item that silently serves us every day. When we maintain our space as a natural part of life, we not only have a clean home, but a peaceful mind. Noriko once told me, "The house also has a rhythm. If we force everything to our will, the space becomes heavy. Observe and let things unfold naturally. That's the best way to care for a home." Unlike how I used to clean, planning to do everything on weekends, cramming all tasks into one day, Noriko quietly observed the rhythm of life. She didn't interfere too much, choosing instead to blend with the natural flow of the home. In the morning, as sunlight poured in, she'd open the curtains and lightly dust the windowsill. When the breeze blew, she'd air out blankets, wash the curtains. These seemingly spontaneous acts were surprisingly effective, because they were done at the right moment, without force. She said, "If you're tired, rest. If you feel inspired, clean. Everything has its own timing." This flexibility kept her from ever feeling pressured by chores. She let the space breathe, and in doing so, gave herself ease. I learned that cleaning doesn't need to be a heavy task. When we listen to ourselves and to our space, the right time reveals itself. One day, simply tidying a corner of my desk cleared my mind. On another day, even without cleaning, I opened the window and let the wind carry away the house's fatigue. Respecting the natural flow doesn't mean giving up. It's an awakened observation, so that every small act happens at the right time with the right mindset. In this way, our space becomes a source of positive energy. No effort required. As a child, I used to think cleaning was a burden. But after living with Noriko, I realized keeping house isn't just about cleanliness. It's a quiet way of expressing love. Noriko never said, "I love you" aloud. But whenever I came home to a neat-made bed, warm water poured, slippers placed in order, I understood that her love was always present through those simple acts. Housekeeping is a kind of wordless language. When we wash dishes so the next person isn't uncomfortable. When we sweep the floor so everyone feels good walking on it. When we return things to their place so no one has to waste time looking. These small acts aren't glamorous, but they are the clearest expression of care. Noriko once told me, "A clean home is good not just for the eyes, but for the heart." When we take time to care for our living space, we're also caring for ourselves and those we love. It's a way of saying, "You deserve this neatness and warmth." I changed, from a lazy person to someone who cherishes every small task at home. I learned to use my hands to show love, without needing fancy words. Every time I wipe a table, fold clothes, water plants, I think of her and realize it's the quiet repetition of kind actions each day that nurtures a real home. If done with heart, keeping house is never a chore. It's the most enduring, quiet, and profound form of love. Noriko once told me, "Cleaning is not just to make the house tidy, but to cleanse the mind as well." At first, I didn't quite understand. Cleaning is a physical task. How could it be called meditation? But as I lived with her, I began to notice something different. She never rushed. When wiping the table, her eyes followed every stroke. When sweeping the floor, every brush of the broom was gentle and deliberate. Every movement she made seemed like a small ritual, slow, focused, undistracted. I started to try doing the same. Instead of turning on loud music or grumbling while tidying, I took deep breaths, paid attention to each movement of my hands folding clothes, each sound of water flowing while washing dishes. Surprisingly, by being fully present, I felt an unusual sense of peace. All the scattered thoughts seemed to quiet down. Noriko called it meditation in action. No need to sit still, no need for chanting, just complete presence in whatever you're doing. She said, if you clean the house with anger, the house becomes cold. If you clean with calmness, the house becomes warm. Since viewing cleaning as a form of meditation, I no longer saw it as a burden. On the contrary, each time I wiped dust or swept the floor, it became a moment to return to myself, to untangle knots and let go of worries. Keeping the house clean is a way to cleanse the mind. When the room brightens, the heart feels lighter. Thus, cleaning is not just an external activity, but a journey to find clarity and inner peace. Noriko once said something that stayed with me. By looking at a house, you can tell the soul of the person living in it. To her, a house is not just a shelter, but an extension of oneself, reflecting thoughts, emotions, and everyday lifestyle. When I was in a messy phase, so was my room. Clothes scattered, books disorganized, dusty corners. Noriko didn't scold me. She gently asked, "Is your heart feeling cluttered lately?" I was startled. It was true. The mess wasn't due to busyness, but because my inner self was in chaos. Since then, I began to change my perspective. Each time I cleaned, it wasn't just tidying up, but a journey to rearrange my inner self. When I neatly folded blankets, my mind felt less tense. When I cleaned my desk, new ideas came more easily. Noriko taught me that a house has a soul, and that soul lies in how we treat our living space every day. She loved every item, even an old bowl or a worn towel, because they were part of her memories and life. She never bought excessively, never decorated extravagantly. She only kept what was essential and meaningful. When we care for our homes like we care for ourselves, we begin to understand who we are. Whether we're rushing or taking things slowly, clinging or ready to let go. In the end, the house is a mirror of the soul. Keep it bright, and your heart will shine. Keep it warm, and your spirit will be steady. Noriko once said, "When you're tired, look at your living space." I didn't quite understand until one day I came home exhausted after a long day, and the messy room seemed to make me feel even more weighed down. It felt like everything was piling up, both physically and mentally. That day, I started with small things: folding clothes, wiping the dusty desk, throwing away unnecessary scraps of paper. After just an hour, the room brightened, and strangely, I felt lighter, my mind clearer, and my mood more at ease. Noriko said, "Tidiness isn't just about aesthetics, it's a form of energy. When everything is in its place, when the space is open and airy, the energy flow in the house and within our bodies becomes smoother." She would often open the windows in the morning to welcome fresh energy, and always tidied up at the end of the day to wash away fatigue. I realized that a house doesn't need to be luxurious. It just needs to be clean and alive. A tidy corner, an organized desk, or simply sunlight streaming through the curtains is enough to recharge us. Tidiness doesn't drain energy. On the contrary, it restores it. When we know how to arrange our living space, we are also arranging our mental state. In a world full of chaos, a peaceful, orderly place is the most precious power bank for the soul. When I went through a breakup, everything collapsed. I lost my appetite, didn't want to talk to anyone, and my room was a mess, just like my emotions. Clothes were scattered, dishes piled in the sink, the floor covered in dust. Everything was silent, sad, and tired. Noriko didn't say much. She just quietly folded the shirt I'd left on a chair, washed a few cups, and said, "When you can't heal inside, start from the outside." That sentence hit me. I tried standing up, starting with the smallest thing, wiping the table, then sweeping, organizing books, doing laundry. Gradually, my space brightened, and strangely, my mood began to lift. Those seemingly simple actions became the thread that pulled me out of the pit of sadness. Noriko once said, "Cleaning isn't just to make the house look nice, but to strengthen your heart." When we wash a cup, we're washing away an old sorrow. When we open the window to let sunlight in, we're opening our hearts to light. I learned that cleaning is also a healing process, gentle, unhurried, yet deep and enduring. Every wipe, every breath, every movement is therapy for the spirit. And one day I looked around at my tidy sunlit room and realized I was doing better. Not because time had passed, but because I had cleaned my sadness with my own hands. Modern life often drives people into a state of chaos. Overwhelming work, information overload, constant emotional fluctuations. At such times we seek stability, a trip, someone to confide in, or simply to escape reality. But for Noriko, true stability doesn't come from outside. It begins right at home. She often said, "When your heart is unsettled, tidy the house." It sounds simple, but when applied, I realized it's a profound lesson. Whenever I felt confused, I started with reorganizing the closet, cleaning my desk, sweeping, and wiping mirrors. These repetitive actions brought a magical effect. Every dust layer removed felt like a worry being lifted. Noriko believed that a tidy home not only beautifies the space, but strengthens the people living in it. When everything around is in order, it's easier to find calm within. She never left dishes overnight, never let clothes pile up, never allowed corners to collect dust. Not out of perfectionism, but because it was her way of staying grounded. I followed her lead. Gradually, I found myself less anxious in the face of turmoil. Because no matter what happened out there, I had a clean, warm, tidy place to return to, where I could recharge and recover. Tidiness, after all, is not a goal, but a means to find ourselves amid life's turbulence. The Japanese see maintaining a tidy living space as part of their life philosophy. Gentle, restrained, and full of reflection. They clean not just for cleanliness, but to heal, to restore inner peace. Every object holds a soul. Every action is meditative. Meanwhile, Americans often focus on comfort and personalization. The living space is a place to express individuality, comfort, and freedom. They may not be perfectionists about order, but value efficiency and practicality. When I applied the habits of Noriko, a traditional Japanese woman, to a modern American-style apartment, I realized that cultural convergence didn't cause conflict, but complemented each other. The neatness of the Japanese brought depth, while the flexibility of the Americans brought vitality. In that small home, I learned, it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is how you choose to live, with reverence for both your space and your soul.